On this episode of Vaping Moderation, we're going to go over just some quick tutorial about the EScribe software just to get you started, and I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible to just go over. It's not going to be a full knocked out every single option, but it will be the stuff you need to plug in your DNA and get started. So first we'll start this by plugging in our DNA device, because each time you plug in your DNA device with the EScribe software open, it downloads all the settings from your DNA 200 into the EScribe software. So any changes you make before you connect this, unless you save them separately, will just get overwritten. So here we'll go. We'll plug that in. And one of the things I don't like about this is that it always wants to charge off the USB, and I don't plug it in long enough to let it charge fully, so I feel like it's a wasted charge cycle. But in any case, as you can see, we've downloaded all the information. You can see my first mode here is Canthal mode, and each one of these tabs right here is a separate profile that you'll set up for various coils or wires that you have, if you have Claptons or something like that. As you can see, I set my first one as Canthal mode, although you don't necessarily have to do that. I did it to where it shuts the temperature off, so that no matter what, it will go into wattage mode on this. And profile 2 is just a basic Ni200 profile, and profile 3 is a titanium profile for me, and it is a stainless steel 316L on profile 4. I believe that's the crown coils. I do have some titanium Clapton I build, and then I also have some stainless steel 304 wire, which I was testing out, and the rest of my profiles are empty. But what we're going to do is go ahead and create a profile right quick, because that's going to be one of the first things that you want to do on your DNA device to get it up and running. So for just simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and call this we'll call this a UL nickel coil, right? And that's what we'll set this up for. Now you can create a custom screen. They're 32 by 128, and I know that Heavy Metal Vapor over there on YouTube, he creates a lot of screens, so you might try and comment on one of his videos to see if you can get some. So then you've named it, and I skipped the custom screen for now, and then you want to set your power level. So if you have a UL nickel coil, they're 0.15. So let's just say our power level is going to be 50 watts to be a little better than the DNA 40. Then you want to set your temperature. Let's say I want to make sure I don't ever burn cotton, even if I stick a dry coil on this. We'll go ahead and do 420. And then your coil material is going to be just the basic nickel 200. And then you have your preheat power, which is going to define how strong it tries to preheat. I don't know about 200 watts because all of mine are DNA 133s, but even so, I would think like 100 watts is a pretty hot preheat, and it usually will set it for 3 seconds, so that it has up to 3 seconds to preheat. It's not going to run 100 watts for 3 seconds unless it has to, but it will run up to 100 watts for up to 3 seconds to get you up to temperature as fast as possible. But I've found it's usually about 1.5 seconds, and then it starts scaling the power back down, so you're not really worried about that. Then they have the preheat punch, soft or hard. Basically that means how fast it's going to ramp up. When you have it in the middle here, it'll go basically like 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and then it's fairly fast that it does that. But I would guess that if you go to soft, then it might do more like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, and if you go to hard, it might do like 100 right off the bat. So that is certainly up to your preference. There's a button here for atomizer. You can analyze the atomizer that is attached. I'll press the button and you see it tells you that for an atomizer to work reliably with temperature protection, it must make good contact, and so on and so forth. But the big things here is the raw ohms is 0.289. If I hit the device right now, if I puff on it, then the ohms are going to go up. The raw ohms are going to go up. And it seems like nominal ohms is just a reflection of the raw ohms, but the cold ohms is what DNA is expecting to be its base ohmage for when it's measuring temperature. And then it of course has the room temperature, which is based on a chip that is on the DNA 200. You can choose to lock the ohms or unlock the ohms or even override the ohms, but none of that is suggested. And if you are in a position where you're having to do one of these things, then there's probably something wrong with the mod or atomizer. Probably something wrong with the mod or atomizer. So let's move on to the next thing, which is let's say we want to create a profile that doesn't have Canthal or nickel in it. Let's say we go with a titanium profile, and I'm just going to name it titanium 2 because I already have a titanium profile. Again, I'm going to skip the screen capture. Again, I'm going to do 50 watts preheat. With titanium, I usually go a little bit lower. And then what we want to do here, this is the important part, is select a custom coil material. What you're going to see is this graph that goes up. Each one of these lines represents a point at which it's measured, and it expects it to go along those points, and it just does the math for what's in between the points. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to load a CSV for the custom material, and on your desktop there's an evolve folder, which is where you should be placing all your custom materials, because it opens up right there by default. And so let's say I have this TI coil that's set for 0.07, and we'll load that up, and you see how it changes the trajectory of that rise. If we do something a little different, like load up this stainless steel, you'll see I've added a lot more points to it, because there's such a small difference that I wanted to make sure in this temperature range it had a lot of points to go by. So let's just load up that titanium again, because that's what we're doing. And again, like I said, the preheat I'm going to do 100. If you did like a clapped-in coil or something, you might want these higher or lower. You know, it's up to you what you want there. And then again, the 3-second preheat. Now that we have these profiles created, in order to send them to the DNA device, what we want to do is press the Upload Settings to Device button. When we press that, the DNA 200 gets all the settings. It does a little quick reboot. It's not even really noticeable, and then the new settings get applied. And you can change wattage and stuff with the device connect, and it will change right on screen with you. The next one is going to be the theme. Basically here you can change all the screens inside this, and to your own, your own messages, whatever, shorted or too hot, you can change to whatever you want. I did change one thing maybe of interest to people, which is the temperature protected sign coming up. Instead of showing the temperature protected sign, what I decided to do, if you click this drop down box, you can either have show message, show temperature, or don't show at all. I chose show temperature, so now when it hits temperature, that's what shows up on the screen, is the temperature being basically regulated at that max level. You can also shut off messages for Canthal max power, and you can show ohms or hide ohms on custom. So if you replace this screen right here, because this screen has real-time information about what the old coil and what the new coil is. So if you create a new one, you should leave the space right here for the information to pop up, and that way you can show the ohms on custom. And you can adjust, basically where that information ends up if you want, and some trial and error will probably be necessary to get it working just right. So that's what you can do with the themes, and you can extend the intros and stuff like that. You can change how much it takes to lock it. Right now it's 5 clicks. You can set it to 3 clicks. I mean, you can set it to any number of clicks you want, but I think 3 is probably the smallest to be safe. Then we have the screen, and this is where you can change the left to right orientation. You can also change when the battery meter gets shown on the default screens, on the main screen only, or all screens. And then you can decide how many times the error flashes, like that temperature protect, it flashes 3 times. And you can also choose how long you want the error versus the status to stay on the page, and whether or not you even want the status, because it might just blink the error 3 times instead, or 4 times, or 5 times, or 1 time if that's the way you want it. You can also change all the fields. Your default fields is when your device is running normally. You have the 3 icons on the left of the device, which are ohms, which are ohms. Voltage is usually the standard, okay, for field 2, so it would be ohm, voltage, temperature. But I have changed it to current, because now when I'm vaping it tells me how many amps I'm drawing from the battery. So it's been helpful to figure out which batteries I think should fit in here best. Then you have the charging fields. These will change when you actually have the USB connected. So right now mine is set to battery cell 1, battery cell 2, and current. Although looking at the device right now, that I don't see that, even though I can see that it's trying to charge my device. Oops. Look at me knocking stuff over. You can also change how fast it goes, how bright it goes, and how fast it fades away. So obviously firing brightness, it fades up to 100%. Okay, screen activates after puff for 100% brightness for 4 seconds, and then 63% brightness for 30 seconds, and then this is the charging brightness for when you're charging it up, and then there's the fade in time and the fade out time. So this is how fast it shows up and how fast it disappears once this idle time of 30 seconds goes out, and at the end of that idle time it just fades out. So let's move on to the next page, which is your mod. Basically here is where you set up the parameters for your mod. This looks a lot more confusing than it actually is. Basically your type of battery, if you're running a lithium battery, then you want lithium polymer. If you're running a LiPo battery, you want LiFePO. And if you're running a power supply, which is pretty unusual, but if you I don't know, hook it up to your desktop power supply maybe. I have no idea what you might want to do with that, but it doesn't monitor the voltage, and it expects you to have full voltage all the time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So with the lithium polymer selected, and also with the LiPo selected, you can choose to have a 2-cell version or a 3-cell version. And if you make this decision, you probably should know how your mod is built and how to get it set up. If it's not set right, I'm not 100% sure how the balancing is going to go on for you. Then they got this watt-hour calculator and cell soft cutoff, which is this is at the point at which it starts saying weak battery and stuff. I'm not sure what the difference. I guess the charge mode is probably how fast it charges. Faster charges are going to, or maybe higher charges. I'm not sure. And then as far as the discharge profile, I actually don't think this has any effect on the device itself. I think it's designed to show you, sort of how it's going to go, how the battery's going to act. I have mine loaded up from the one provided from Evolve that is just for like HE2 batteries or something. But I really honestly think this doesn't matter. You can use your DNA as a battery analyzer, but there's some caveats to it. One of them is that you don't want to just stick a regular atomizer on there, because you'll break down the wire in the time it takes to discharge the batteries completely. So what they expect you to do is to like throw a resistor on there of at least like 40 watts or some kind of representative size of being able to absorb, and then it'll basically test fire it until the battery's empty, and then just monitor the battery the whole time from start to finish and create this CSV right here off of whatever batteries happen to be installed. I haven't done this because I'm not sure if I have a resistor that will do this. I mean, I have a resistor that will do this, but it's like a 10 ohm or something like that. I don't know if it'll work for this. Yeah, and you can select which wattage you want to test at. Then they have the Canthal power limit, the mod resistance, and the ohm lock range. These are more advanced features that I'm not particularly going to go into, because unless you're a mod builder, these probably aren't going to come into effect with you. I'm not sure if the Canthal power limit actually translates to not being able to run Canthal above 100 watts. I don't know. You can swap the up-down buttons if you accidentally install them upside down, some external buttons upside down, or you just don't like the way it's facing, whatever. You can change that. Then there's some thermal stuff. You can do a case analyzer, which which will sit there and charge differently your it will charge your device in different capabilities to see how the temperature around it performs. And then there's the research tab, which as far as I can tell you can completely ignore, because I don't see where any of these things actually apply to us. So that's what you have. A couple of last things. The device monitor is pretty cool. It will allow you to monitor like both of your cell voltages, your pack voltage, the USB current right now, which is about 500 milliamps. It's not really saying much about what's going on right this second, because nothing is going on right this second, but it does tell you the power is set to 60 watts, the temperature to 550, what the ohms are. And if I go ahead and hit this thing while it's hooked up here, and again, I don't like this because I don't like hitting devices that are charging. I think it counts as a discharge charge cycle, and so I don't see the benefit of this unless I can shut off recharging from the USB. And just like that, I'm Pete Basardo. And it'll monitor the temperature and everything, and it shows you how it limits the current and how it draws and all that good stuff. It tells you up in the top left hand corner as you hit it. And that was a 9.75 amp draw. So obviously USB is not covering 9.7 amps, and so that it discharged the batteries. Now it's charging them back up, something that I don't really recommend. And then you can do graph options and stuff, but like I said, I haven't really played around with this. The device monitor is really only useful for me to go in and check what the board temperature is and what my cell voltages are, and that's pretty much it. And that ends this tutorial. You can get your serial number on here and stuff, and hopefully this was quick enough to get you guys started and at least get you vaping on your new coils. If you want a set of custom coil material printouts, you can contact me. You can also make them yourself over on the steam engine now. It's the last tab to the right, and you just sort of type in the parameters of your coil and then download the CSV for that coil and load it up into your DNA and create a new profile for it, load it on there, and you're done. So that concludes my tutorial, and like I always say, whatever it takes for you to quit smoking. These kind of geeky devices are pretty awesome to me, but I realize they might be a tripping block for a lot of people with the complexity of this software, because there are some things you really can't get the features out of the DNA 200 unless you turn on this software. So that's all I have for y'all, and I will see you guys during the next review.